everybody. Welcome to another episode of From the Trenches. Today we have some wonderful people who are going to talk to us about publicity and PR in the context of music creators. Liz Parker of Liz PR assists classical musicians with their style, from photo shoots to what is worn on stage. She worked in PR with the Vancouver and Toronto Symphonies and at Roy Thompson and Massey Hall, and was a digital content manager for the New Classical FM in Toronto. She regularly gives lectures to young musicians about photos, website content, and social media. Andrew Cohen and his team at Impact 24 secures high-level press coverage, seeking panel and speaking opportunities, and pursuing a variety of other strategies to elevate his clients. Andrew and his team specialize in behind-the-camera and behind-the-curtain talent and represents numerous composers. Samuel Laflamme is a Quebecois composer who has worked extensively across film, television, and video game worlds. Samuel's music entered the international spotlight through his work on the critically acclaimed survival horror game Outlast, and its sequel, Outlast 2, playing a key role in shaping the identity of the game, contributing to its fervent fan following. Other credits include the video game adaptation for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and numerous French-Canadian television series and films. So, Andrew, Sam, Liz, welcome here. It's great to kind of hang out with you guys. Looking forward to this talk very much. So the first question that I want to maybe ask, and maybe I'll start with Samuel, if you can tell me about how you're able to leverage publicity into another gig and what lessons you learned from that. And then I'm going to throw it around to Andrew and Liz to kind of talk about that as well too. But Samuel, you first.
Qu'est-ce qu'une vitrine publicitaire ou en fait un relationniste de presse peut apporter à une carrière? C'est en fait une plus-value à un artiste. Donc, dans mon cas, comme compositeur de musique de film, de télévision puis de jeux vidéo, en fait, c'est juste d'élever mon image, puis d'être connu, puis d'exposer ce que je fais, ma vision, le travail que je fais pour que les gens, les fans, mais aussi les clients soient au courant de ce que je fais. Et puis, une fois que ça c'est bien fait, avec le temps, c'est difficile de quantifier exactement le nombre de projets que j'ai eu grâce à ce genre de travail-là continu que je fais, mais d'exposure, en fait. Mais clairement, c'est plus comme quelque chose qui est relativement associé, dans le sens que plus ma valeur est élevée, en ce moment-là, j'ai plus de facilité à, après ça, négocier mes projets, choisir la qualité de mes projets que j'accepte ou pas, puis d'attirer aussi des clients qui ont le même genre, qui partagent le même genre de vision ou de but, qui cherchent en fait ce que j'ai à proposer. Donc, c'est tout simplement ça.
Bon, look. Andrew, I'm going to ask you, in terms of then, and I guess the question is not so much how you're able to get more gigs for yourself, although that is kind of interesting, but how do you feel that, PR leverages, how your clients can leverage PR into another gig?
Well, I think Sam, first of all, I definitely agree with what he said in terms of, press adds value to you and it can help, you get more work, but it's not super direct. Like the big thing that I always talk about with my clients is that PR is a piece of the puzzle and you can't just wait around and hope that, article that publishes equals a phone call for a gig. You have to be more proactive. And so the idea is that by having a more, recent and buzzing Google search results, better SEO, having more stuff on your news section, your blog section of your website, just having this more notoriety, even, the tangible is things like that. The intangible is just like the word of mouth, the tests, or people like, I just heard about you, or heard your music. So I think there's a lot of ways to kind of like leverage it, really coming down to just, being proactive and putting yourself out there.
Cool. Liz, do you have anything to add to that?
I find that there's kind of a piggyback effect. Once you get one article written about you and you're able to post that for everyone to see on social, like, credibility, because people believe an article, not an advertisement. An article seems legit. So as soon as I post something like on Facebook or what have you, people are like, so you're legit. And I'm talking just about coverage I've received, but it also applies to the clients that I used to work with in PR. So that's the important thing. As soon as you position yourself as an expert, people want to talk to you.
Liz, you talk about advertising versus publicity, and maybe if you and Andrew can maybe touch base on this, like, how do you think people perceive that? I mean, when one of the things that I know that I feel when I work with Andrew is that I'm terrified of making it look like I'm tooting my own horn. And how, like, what are some steps that you can do to kind of, minimize that tooting your own horn effect, especially on social media?
Well, one thing that I noticed when composers post about their premiere coming up or a project, they use the word my a lot. And I understand why. You're talking, about my piece, my work, my world premiere. And they don't mean to sound egomaniacal, but it can kind of come across that way because it's about optics and perception is reality. So for composers specifically, I've told them, try to avoid I, my, me. So if they say things like, the thrill is real, a work that I compose is going to be premiered next month, it sounds a little more modest, but you're still tuning your horn. Then my work, and I'm excited. Does this resonate with you guys?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I suggest when composers in particular are promoting themselves.
Thanks, Liz. Andrew, how about you?
I always talk about in my media training, teaching clients how to practice their interviews, is that it's all about virtual high fives and shout outs. Because it's not look at me, it's look at my team. It's not look at my accomplishments, it's look at our collective accomplishments. And so the better that you can shout people out, not only within an interview, but also like tag them when you're reposting it, it's sort of like a collective and joint celebration and takes the pressure off of you. And I think the other thing is like, if you're only and always posting about your milestones and your accomplishments, it can get really like repetitive and really, obnoxious. And so what I encourage is to make sure that like every once in a while, share your friends thing, celebrate your colleagues thing. It's important to be like a part of a community. So yeah, I think as long as you kind of like mix it up and spread the love, then you're in the right direction.
Thanks, Andrew. I think those are some great tips there. So I'm going to ask Andrew and Liz. I'm going to maybe start with Liz here first. With regards to like music creators, composers, songwriters, what are some of the more creative PR campaigns you've heard of?
A lot of them are based on the personality of the artist. For example, Misha Berger-Gossman is a big personality, and it really comes across on her social media channels. So, and Misha will post anything from, getting a manicure to doing a recording with a famous conductor, but she makes it very fun and festive, and she really draws you in. Another person is violinist Laura St. John. She's a real entrepreneur. She started her own recording label way before people did that. This is not really a PR campaign per se, but she is a gutsy woman. And she has come forward with quite the Me Too story that happened to her when she was a student at Curtis, which is incredibly brave to do. And she sort of positioned herself as a champion for young female students in music schools. And I, hats off to her for doing that. So those are two people that come to mind in terms of just putting themselves out there, both in terms of PR, their personality, and by the way, they're performing in New York this weekend, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Liz. Andrew, how about you? And some of the more creative PR campaigns you've heard of, maybe you've worked on them as well too. So,
well, I'm trying to think back to Sam's campaign, and I feel like one of the things that you had, Sam, in your, I can't remember exactly, but didn't we have some very interesting, you used some very unusual instruments or methods of how you were?
Well, that is your genius part, man. This like, as Liz said, once you got an article, it's easier to, So Andrew has the brilliant idea to get IGN first.
We had a great time working together at the Game Developers Conference, GDC, and we did a really cool track release of one of his like spine-tingling tracks from Atlas too. And working with the IGN, I think that was a really great tone setter because once we had the legitimacy of them, suddenly everybody was caring about it. But in terms of other, creative PR campaign, as much as I don't want to put myself out of business, I think that some of the best PR campaigns come from when the clients have really creative, videos, set releases, like a cool making of video or behind scenes, like they're showing like how they use an unusual instrument or something like that. And sometimes when you release a video like that, whether it's like putting it directly on social media or working with someone like me to like get as a cool press exclusive, the press comes to you. I just encourage everyone to like always be your own best documentarian. Consider in your pre-production planning what elements can you document or integrate that will make your publicist's job easier or your self-promotion easier. And that will be the kind of thing that will resonate with your future audience.
That's really great advice, Andrew. I want to pivot here and talk about self-PR, and I want to talk about some strategies and examples of doing self-PR on a budget. And Liz, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Well, I mean, social media is the obvious thing. I mean, you just bypass the media altogether and market directly to, the people looking online. I think it's important not to come across as braggy. And I don't know about you guys, but I've sort of had it up to here with singing, lip syncing, dancing type videos. And maybe that's just my age. I don't know. But I think if you're more incidental, like talk about what it's like to rehearse, what it's like to practice, what it's like to compose. And this is all leading up to something I've got coming down the pike, something like that. Some teasers are good. You sort of have to plan it out. Personally, since I do a lot of pre-PR work, like photo shoots, editing bios, consulting on websites, things like that, I will post something like how bored I am with a classical soloist bio. They're all the same, laundry list of gigs. And as soon as I do that, boom, people weigh in. And what I'm doing is I'm sort of positioning myself as an expert without saying, hey, I can do this for you. I just talk about it. And the fact that you can hire me to do that is almost incidental. It's very much a soft sell. So it's a fine line because you want to put your gigs out there, your works out there, but you don't want to come across as me, even though it kind of is.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Liz. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about some strategies and examples of doing self-PR on a budget?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that I like some of the instincts of what Liz does, and I think things that you be thinking about, like, make sure you have your best foot forward, like you have a great photo website. Those are things that are really important for everything. And so if you don't have like a cohesive and relevant fresh brand, then people won't take you serious.
Sam, maybe you talk a little bit about some of the things that you do. I mean, as much as I love supporting Andrew's Future Kids College Fund, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do things yourself. And just wondering if you talk a little bit about something that you do when you don't hire a publicist.
So, dans le fond, l'idée que tout le monde parle depuis le début, puis ces deux thématiques, je trouve, qui reviennent, c'est l'idée d'être présent, c'est-à-dire de créer une connexion avec soit les fans, soit les clients, présent dans sa scène, dans son milieu, dans son milieu professionnel, mais aussi sur la scène des médias sociaux et tout. Puis si on peut aussi ajouter la deuxième valeur qui est de raconter une histoire. Raconter une histoire, ce qu'on fait en ce moment, dans le fond, on est présent dans un Zoom, puis à travers ça, il y a quelques histoires qui se racontent, puis c'est quand tu as ces deux éléments-là ensemble qu'il y a un succès par rapport à la publicité, je pense, puis à la façon de se présenter, puis quand je pense à tous mes idoles, ils savent bien raconter les histoires. J'ai plusieurs noms en tête, mais c'est des gens qui savent raconter des histoires puis qui sont présents sur leur scène professionnelle. Donc, c'est ce que je dirais.
Okay, merci, Sam. I'm going to move on to sort of our last question here, and I wanted to maybe start with Andrew. Can you give some general pointers for PR publicity? Whether it's do-it-yourself or whether you're working with a hired professional, what are just some general tips that you'd want to tell people?
My two big PR principles is start early and video content is king. So start early means that if you have a project, album release or a TV show premiere, like it's never too soon to start planning. I just talked to people today, just now, that haven't even started working on the show, but it's their first TV series. and, they're already thinking ahead. And I told them it's too soon for me to do anything, but it's still nice to get in touch with them now because we can plan ahead and strategize. And the big thing with press, whether you're promoting yourself or having a publicist do it for you, is lead time is super helpful because they want to have their story ready to rock right around the premiere. And if you wait until after the premiere, by the time we schedule the interview, do it, transcribe, that can take weeks or months. And so it's better to have a month or two of lead time wherever possible. The other thing, I think we talked about this earlier, but definitely document your work, photos, video, thing like that is really helpful. And it's never too early to consider your promotion, whether it's self-promoting yourself or hiring somebody. There's always people that can do it for very cheap or affordably, even myself. It's about building that long-term relationship with someone who you trust with your brand and your brand interests. And of course, just trying things out yourself and seeing oh, I'm getting more engagement on this social media handle. I should probably invest more time into it. So it's all about trial and error. It's all about putting yourself out there. And I would just encourage people to keep trying and, you'll find success once you choose to market or promote yourself, whether it's by yourself or with others. And I wish everyone the best of luck with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Sam, what are your thoughts? General PR tips?
Donc, comme je disais, je me répète, mais d'être présent, maintenir ses connexions, puis il y a aussi trouver des façons créatives comme ça peut être des avenues très simples des fois, des étudiants, des jeunes compositeurs ou des fans qui me demandent, qui me disent juste simplement j'ai beaucoup aimé ton travail, puis tout ça. Puis c'est de prendre le temps, dans le fond, avec intention, de leur répondre gentiment, puis bien que souvent on est occupé et tout, mais juste comme c'est une petite attention qui est toujours bienvenue, je pense. Puis après ça, 2-3 ans après, ça m'est arrivé que la personne comme telle est devenue étudiante puis en composition. Puis là, elle veut faire son travail de mémoire ou sa recherche sur ton travail. Puis là, ça te permet de creuser plus loin. Puis on ne sait jamais, dans le fond, de maintenir les contacts. Encore là, ça revient à ça, de maintenir les contacts et des connexions. Que ce soit à travers avec les fans ou avec les clients. Ça peut être un simple café ici au studio, une fois de temps en temps, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de projets que je fais sous NDA qui ne sont pas sortis, que je ne peux pas parler, donc je ne peux pas publiciser en attendant. Fait que c'est de trouver des différentes façons de rester actif quand même.
Parfait. Merci, Sam. And last but not least, Liz, a minute of the last word. The question again is just some general pointers for PR, whether it be do-it-yourself or with a hired professional.
Well, if it's do-it-yourself and you're writing your own press release, make sure it is short, succinct, and factual. Do not use flowery, hyperbolic marketing language. Journalists will not go for that. They'll be offended by that and delete your email. So just say, this is happening. And along with the who, what, where, when, why, who cares? And it's sort of a harsh way of putting it, but it kind of slaps you into reality. Why should the journalist care to contact you, to interview you, and talk about your project? The other thing you should keep in mind, at least film is cool, TV is cool, video games are cool. Classical music doesn't have the cool factor. So I always wanted to find out what are your other interests outside classical music. Another example, Hilary Hahn, famous American violinist, I found out that she loves to cook on the road. She doesn't want to stay in a hotel. She'd rather be in a motel where she can cook. So I've tapped out all the entertainment writers for classical music. I went to a lifestyle journalist and they interviewed her about staying fit on the road. See, think of other ways you can get PR aside from your usual suspects. And in terms of working with a professional, that's sort of where I come in. I do a lot of the pre-PR. I make sure your website looks good, your photos look good. You can fake your way around a press release or get someone to proofread it for you. You cannot fake your way into great photos. So for example, I make sure that there's a lot of negative space so that text can go in. So it becomes a poster or a flyer or what have you online. So you have to, even if you can't afford someone, a publicist, to do all the professional things, you can certainly hire them for a consultation. Pay them for 2 hours to at least figure out what are the things I need to know, sort of what we're covering today. And I have had clients who couldn't afford to hire me to style their photo shoot and be there and plan it, but they have hired me to tell them what do I need to know, like wearing solids as opposed to prints, high-res photos, et cetera, et cetera. So those are some of the big takeaways I think I can give you.
Really cool. This is like kind of mind-numbing a little bit because there's just so much good stuff. That being said, I really want to thank all of you guys, Liz, Andrew, Sam. Thank you for coming in, speaking to us a little bit about kind of, publicity, PR, tuning one's own horn or someone else's horn for that matter. And I think this is going to be great, really relevant stuff. So thank you so much.
For more candid conversations and free music creator resources, visit musiccreator.ca. The Screen Composers Guild of Canada acknowledges the support of the Canada Council for the Arts. Thanks for listening.